Call the meeting to order, September 16th, 2019. Thanks for the gavel, Martin. Delegations? None. The minutes of regular council meeting held on September 3rd be adopted as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried. No business arising from delegations. Business arising from the minutes. None. Committee appointment restructuring. In accordance with section 144 of the community charter, I rescind Councillor Pittman's appointments to the Economic Development, Budget and Administrative Services, Intergovernmental Relations Committees, and the Economic Development one as well.
In response, I will not stand for bullying, harassment, and intimidation by anyone. I was elected by the people, for the people. I am not here for my own personal gains. I will continue to do my due diligence by asking questions and making informed decisions that are in the best interest for this community. I am not going anywhere. I will continue to represent your voice on council and your best interests. I am in discussions with legal representation in this matter and cannot comment any further at this time. I thank you to the citizens of Cache Creek for your continued support.
Thank you. Committee reports?
No, can we move those?
Sorry?
Do we need to move that?
No.
No?
Thank you. Economic Development?
No, we need to move forward.
NDIT tomorrow, 100 mile. Just going to bring one item forward. Hopefully there's an appetite to expand on the interim program and allow us to maybe gather or apply for funding to get another body in the office. So. Right now it's kind of condensed to somebody who's straight out of school, and we're hoping that maybe they can change the criteria.
Would that be the intern program?
It would be the intern program, yeah, and maybe have it on a graduated level where they pay for the full amount first year through discussions with our CAO. That was the recommendations that I'll bring forward tomorrow.
What duties are going to be covered by this intern program?
Sorry?
What duties are going to be covered by the intern program?
Well, it'll be a corporate officer, so maybe Martin, you can elaborate what the corporate officer's duties would be in our structure.
The corporate officer is responsible for, maintaining all the records of the municipality. They, in general, look after agendas and minutes. Record keeping includes all of the files, including electronic files. They, in general, monitor and keep track of any ongoing contracts. If a contract is coming up for renewal, they're the ones that keep track of that and forward a recommendation to the CAO to take it to council for carrying on or stopping that contract, that kind of thing. Basically, it's the internal paper operation of the municipality.
Something that we need help with.
Definitely.
I would like to see that perhaps if we are doing the internal intern program, that it be for a bylaw officer. How much money is this going to cost the village of Cache Creek?
Well, we'll have to discuss that in the budget,
Mm-hmm.
so we'll have to kind of get.
We'll have to, yeah, we would have to work out a budget. I believe Mayor Tellerico was talking about a graduated system where the first year would be paid entirely by NDIT, and then as the program carried, right now it is 100% covered by NDIT, but only for interns. The intent is to see if there's any interest in expanding that program so that people maybe not just getting out of school, but looking to move up in the field could also take advantage of that intern program. NDIT would pay 100% the first year, 60% the second year, and 30% the third year of all salary and benefit costs. But this is just a proposal to NDIT at this point.
Mm-hmm. So could that proposal have been for a bylaw officer?
I'm not familiar enough with the program to say one way or the other on that.
Yeah, we have to dig a bit more on that.
It is possible, but I just don't know enough about the program.
Could we find out?
It's on their website if you'd like to look it up. The Northern Development Initiative Trust actually has a very good website, lots of good information there on all their programs.
Any further? Budget and Administrative Services, Councilor Peters.
No meeting, no report.
Policy and Bylaw Review, myself and Councilor Peters. No meeting, no report. Under that policy, bullying and harassment policy.
I'll note that the policy A11 is respectful workplace.
I'd second it, but I'd like to table it until the next meeting for another go-round at it.
Second.
That was, before we, did you actually make that motion? Because it would actually not be in order.
No.
The reason being, we are under orders from WorkSafe to have this policy in place by this Friday, or we start getting fined.
When was it brought to our attention that we had?
About a month, a little, actually just before I went on vacation, so right near the end of July.
Then I'll second Lisa's motion.
Discussion. Councilor Kruger.
Just a couple of things I'd like to add, if it's not too late. On page 7. The definition of bullying and harassment, or bullying. I think Councilor Peters dropped off this document.
I just,
Oh, just for me? It's okay. From the Canadian Center for Occupational Health and Safety, what is workplace bullying? And I like their definition better than what's in here. It says bullying usually involves repeated incidents or a pattern of behavior that is intended to intimidate, offend, degrade, or humiliate a particular person or group of people. So I'm just seeing this now. I'd like to find a way of including that somehow, as opposed to includes any inappropriate conduct or comment by a person towards another individual. It seems to me that it would be more than one occasion in order to be called bullying or harassment.
If council adopts this policy tonight, and I'm hoping you do, we can always amend it later.
Okay. And the other thing I had was, at the bottom of the page, under those bullets, bullying and harassment could also
Which one?
include.
Over here.
Filing of baseless or malicious complaints would be one bullet, and threats of future harm would be another that I don't see in here anywhere.
Okay, what was the first one?
Filing baseless or malicious complaints.
I think that is covered later.
It is, but it's not in the definition. Filing baseless or malicious
Complaints.
complaints. And what was the second?
Threats of future harm.
Is it too late for us to amend these now and as
No, for something quick and simple like those two bullets, that would be easy enough to do, adopt as amended.
but not the definition?
The definite, well, yeah, we could, if council agrees to what Councillor Coomber read out, or if you want to read it for yourself, and I can just type that in.
It's hard to squeeze that in around all the other words here.
Was your point not to replace this definition with that one?
No, just to add it.
Add it to this
I
one,
think-
or add it to where, however it makes sense?
It would be to work it in, yeah.
That's the kind of thing I'm thinking might be better off to wait for a future council meeting. If it's just something that can be added on rather than changed or
Okay,
trying to mix it in,
Mhm.
I think would be too much for tonight.
okay.
Go ahead.
The authorized investigator, I guess is the.
Still on
Oh,
page 7.
no, on page 10.
Oh,
I guess is the more description of authorized.
What
Oh,
point
here
are-
we are. in order.
What point are you looking at? Paragraph.
There is a definition for authorized investigator.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, I got it here. To sign the bottom on page 10, sign a Village of Cache Creek confidentiality agreement. Do we have a copy of that agreement? Or should that state maintain confidentiality and sign a bullying and harassment confidentially? Yeah.
We do have a Village of Cache Creek confidentiality agreement that all staff have to sign.
Okay, I wasn't aware
But
of
it's,
that.
but it's for the entire village, it's not just as relates to this policy. So I did not think it was appropriate to add it to this policy as an appendix. All staff, when they are hired on, sign a confidentiality agreement, yes.
Okay. So I guess, just there was other things that were from the bullying and harassment policy that you gave us earlier to review. I'm not sure if that would be better to keep in with what you gave to us in regards to maintain confidentiality and sign a bullying and harassment confidentiality agreement.
That must have been changed because there's no bullying and harassment confidentiality agreement.
Agreement.
It's just there is a generic Village of Cache Creek confidentiality agreement. From that original policy that I sent out to everyone, there were several changes that were made to from there to here, to
Right.
tonight. And that was one of them, I do remember making that change.
Just in some spots where it's page 11, withdraw complaint, so on and so forth, depending on the nature of the issue. Senior staff
Which,
we could-
which number are we looking at?
421.
Okay,
So senior staff and or designate, or the mayor. Should we, because we do refer to that quite a bit throughout the document.
oh, I see what you mean. Okay,
Right.
to insert their designate
Yeah.
after senior staff?
Yes, please. And again, on 4.3.1.
Okay.
Um, being 4.3.1, the last bullet, be informed of the results of the investigation in writing, and validation of corrective action. If we could add and validation.
No, I removed that for a reason. Validation doesn't have any legal meaning. It's, you get a result of the investigation in writing.
That was in this one, right?
Yeah, I just removed, there's several times where they put, at least one other time where they put in that word and validation. It didn't really apply to the rest of the wording.
Yeah, that's like, how did the corrective action go? Did it succeed or not?
Something like that, yeah. To me, it didn't fit, so I removed it.
And page 13, 6.1.3, where it says the information with the appropriate village personnel or outside agency. Should that not be the village management?
I think appropriate village personnel pretty much covers it.
It'd be more to the management rather than, or senior management.
The personnel has already been described.
Well, yeah, the thing, no, personnel doesn't have a definition, but appropriate village personnel would be the complainant, the respondent, the immediate supervisor, and senior staff. So village personnel, that's why it's written as appropriate village personnel. It just simplifies things rather than having to put one item after another. That's the reason I put that in there. If council prefers, I can take out appropriate village personnel and insert all of the ones that would be included there.
Well, I just was thinking that this was where required information regarding the complaint will be shared with the appropriate village senior management.
No, because we may want to share, we may have to share something that we've found with the complainant as well.
Okay, okay.
And if it is the senior staff person who is doing the investigation, they may have to share that with their immediate, the complainant's or the respondent's immediate supervisor as well.
Okay. My next one is 6.1.4, as per the Village of Cache Creek Disciplinary Procedures Policy C-6.
Yes.
I'm unaware of that policy.
It's in our policy manual.
And on the website.
So, and all staff employees have copies of that?
I don't know if they have copies of it themselves, but there is a copy available to them, certainly.
Okay.
And as Councilor Peters mentioned, it's on our website as well.
Okay, so I just want to ensure that all of our employees are aware of it. I guess it's like, right?
I can make sure that they are aware of it. I'm pretty sure that they already are, but I'll make sure that they are.
Okay.
We did go through this afternoon briefly. I did ask them to go through it in detail throughout the week and to sign off on it by the end of the week. So if there's any concerns about the disciplinary procedures policy, I'm sure they'll come up.
It's referred to quite a few times, so that's
Yes.
why I am questioning it. I guess up into page 17, 6.5.4, identifying the findings of the allegations rather than the investigation.
No, that should be investigation.
Mediation terms and sign an agreement to mediate. Do we have a policy on that?
Which point are you on now?
6.5.5C. Prior
We
to
don't have
mediation.
a mediation terms agreement because it will depend on the actual nature of the complaint.
So we don't have any policy or anything
No, we
at
don't.
this time? Okay. Okay, I think that I think we can leave that one.
Any
Alright.
further?
So it would be respectful workplace as amended.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Public Works and Community Facilities. Myself and Counselor Defoe. Village Services and Liaison, Counselor Defoe, Counselor Turnberg.
I, as a member of the Beautification Society, I'm going to excuse myself. I could be in conflict of interest.
Thank you.
I'll move the recommendation that council approve the request for free use of the community hall to move to the Cache Creek Beautification Society market indoors.
Thanks. Have a comment. We allow every other community group one free use of the facility, and then they pay their fees, so all of the service clubs, all of anyone else pays for use of the hall. And I'm wondering if it's appropriate for them to have 3 free uses.
We amended that policy so that if anyone wanted more than one free use, they then had to come to council.
That's correct. Okay.
The free use was an automatic that staff could look after without bringing it to council. And I could be wrong here, but the Beautification Society will probably be requesting another free use for their Winter Lights celebration.
And their volunteer appreciation on here, it says,
Yeah, is that for this year?
in April, not for next year.
Then
Yeah.
next year. They do a lot of good things for our downtown core. So.
Further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
I did.
Protect.
If you don't mind, I'll bring up Those are the two items on my report while we're under services and liaison.
Thank you.
I think that's the appropriate place. Okay, so the bus committee met in Clinton last week. They were asking me how the 2 months of ridership has been. I said, not sure. There's no way to track it at this point, so they thought that maybe they could get the driver to start keeping track because there's no numbers for the other two communities either. Some discussion about increase in service, such as adding a second bus stop or adding on-demand service in Cache Creek. And the answer was that if the extra stops could be fit into the current schedule, that could be added quite easily and no extra cost. So Yellowhead Community Services, who's the operator, said there's still a fair bit of wiggle room in the current schedule and they could probably accommodate us if we wanted to take a little bit more of their time. YCS also noted they were looking for another garage. They may be looking for another garage. And that if they had to go into Kamloops, it would be costing them more money. And we've been circulating the bus schedule around the community on Facebook, in the post office, and everywhere else. Just to remind people that the service is there and they need to be using it.
It's been shared a fair number of times.
I know, it's good. And I attended the Wellness Health Action Coalition meeting today in Ashcroft. And we have 3 doctors again. Oh, they just received society status, Community Health Center Society for Ashcroft and area. The municipal representatives were asked what their plans were for UBCM, so I stated that we were hoping to meet with Health Minister Adrian Dix and possibly informally with the rural health clinic to ask why so much money was going into non-health service infrastructure in Kamloops and Kelowna when money could easily, the same amount of money could easily be spent in providing services to rural areas. Ashcroft Mayor Barbara Roden said she would be speaking to Minister Dix about the ER and added they just received word from Interior Health that ER would remain open from Friday night to Monday morning for the next year. And Councillor Christine Rivett from Clinton said they had no meeting planned with Minister Dix, but Mayor Swan would be up to meeting with him if somebody else invited her to their meeting. Nursing report, I've given you a document that was passed around today regarding the,
Ridiculous.
yeah, the state of nursing at the Ashcroft Hospital. It's like a shell game. It's really easy to lose track of the numbers if you don't have, you know, the clear sight right in front of you. Okay, so since 2014, we've gone from 4 full-time, 2 part-time, and 1 vacation relief to present time when we have 1 full-time and 1 part-time nurse. The empty positions are being filled at the moment with casual help in some cases and RNs coming from other places to work to help fill in the gaps. And Interior Health has proposed a new RN rotation to put in for part-times only, no full-times. And lastly, the healthcare area planning table has met 4 times from June to August. And according to the group's chairwoman, they are most likely done, Shane Cornelly. Interior Health provided resource, staff, and agendas, and outnumbered all of the local people at the table. ER service came up early in the talks, and I think was really the only thing that came out of it that was addressed.
Thank you. Protective Services, myself and Councilor Cooper. No meeting, no report for me.
Zero.
Intergovernmental Relations, myself. No meeting, no report. Staff reports.
Not for tonight.
Information correspondence.
And did we receive for information?
Just out of curiosity, what was the quote for repairs?
For repairs,
Fire hall?
37,500.
Yeah, that was one quote. We are still waiting for another.
Funny story there. The person who came and gave us assessment, the building, gave me the name of two companies that he said were out of Kamloops. One of those two companies, I asked for a quote, they gave me a phone call back saying, I don't think you'd like our out of living out costs. We've relocated from Kamloops to Edmonton.
What were they quoting on? What type of roof?
Tar and gravel, well, or whatever the modern equivalent of tar and gravel is.
Okay,
A type of torch-on membrane, I think was mentioned,
all right.
and replacing all the flashing and that kind of thing, of course, too.
Were any local contractors contacted?
I don't think any, as far as I know, none of the local contractors can do that kind of a roofing job. They're pretty much shingles.
Thanks, thank you.
Motion to proceed on file.
Actually, since this is on now for, we might as well get a council resolution. We should really get that roof done before the snow flies. It's outside of our budget. I would like to have a motion from council to amend the budget and proceed at a timely basis if we can find a contractor able to do so. At a cost not to exceed 40,000. We have a quote for 37.5, just add a little bit on there for contingencies.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I don't
Are we allowing for any remedial action for the water damage?
We are. What we're doing at the moment is, I cannot remember the person's name, but there is a local person that I asked Tom to look into. He tracked someone down. What they will have to do is pull down the ceiling tiles inside the fire hall, remove the vapor barrier, remove the insulation, and let it dry out. Because when I was over there with the person doing the assessment, he pulled some of the ceiling these kind of ceiling tiles down, and there was water actually inside the vapor barrier, pooled inside the vapor barrier.
That'll have to be done after the roof is redone, though, won't it?
The guy who assessed the building said we should get that done right now.
Well, because I would think it would just do it again if it rains.
We're gonna have to leave it out until the roofing is done. And that gives us enough time to dry out as well.
So the 40,000 will encompass the water damage.
Yes. If there's no water damage at this point, fingers crossed, it is just water infiltration that we can recover from. We don't have to replace anything other than the membrane roof at this point, as far as we know. If some of the decking on top of the roof underneath the membrane is damaged, then yes, we'll have to replace that as well. Obviously, they won't know that until they strip off the old stuff. Again, that's why we're asking for some contingency funding.
EMBC had a real push on funding for fire departments and emergency services. Do you think they have any grants left? Or something like that?
There is a grant from UBCM on equipment that I'm aware of.
And training?
And training, yes. And there was another one for the Fire Chiefs Association of BC, but again, that's just for equipment. To the best of my knowledge, there isn't anything out there for ongoing repairs or normal maintenance, and this is a normal maintenance issue. If you wanted to add on to the fire hall or do something like that, we might be able to get capital funding, but this is considered a maintenance type of item.
They always have a table at the trade show at UBCM.
It's amazing what you can find in that trade show.
Where is the copy of the quote for the,
I didn't make a copy. Did just received it.
Oh, okay.
Any further?
Sorry, I missed, it was Councilor Peters who made the motion, who seconded?
When,
Any further?
Can you just reread the motion, please?
To hire a contractor at a cost not to exceed $40,000 to repair the roof of the fire hall.
Okay, so that will go out for bid, correct?
Yes, we've already got one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get at least one more. I'm gonna try to get two more before we do the job.
Okay,
But in any case, the cost will not exceed $40,000, or if it has to, then we will come back to council.
okay.
Oh, actually, the motion included that the budget be amended to include.
Any further? All in favor? Carried. New business? Questions from the public?
Oh,
That's you. That's you. That's why we're looking at you.
well, actually, I wanted to attend, just to see how the council was working. I gave you a few months, and then I made the mistake of coming to the long meeting. And I wanted to come back again and see how it worked in a little calmer situation. So, I have some questions, but I don't know that they can be answered at this point, but I was wondering if anything at all, if we're looking at budgeting for a bylaws officer or a part-time bylaws officer, because I don't think we need one full-time here. I know a retired bylaws officer that would love to work part-time. I forwarded the information to the council. I haven't heard anything back, so I was just curious to know if anybody has spoken to the lady or looked at it or...
Ben Martin.
No, I have not spoken to her because I don't want to put, how do I word this? I don't want to raise her hopes in case council decides that no, we're not ready to spend that kind of money at this time. So no, I have not contacted her. We need to have a number of things in place before we hire a bylaw enforcement officer. First of which is to have a municipal ticketing bylaw. And we have no such thing in place yet.
So why do we have bylaws?
To direct the public and staff.
But
and council in how they
if you
proceed.
can't enforce them or you can't work with them, why do we have bylaws? They're not being enforced.
They are being enforced to the best of our ability, which normally means either writing a letter or having a lawyer write a letter, and that's about as much as we can do until we do have a municipal ticketing bylaw in place and someone to enforce that bylaw.
Well, I have what I downloaded from the website 2.5 years ago when I was first approached about my neighborhood to represent them with some of our concerns. And that's not the way I read it. I've got it here if you want to take a look at it. I just find that it's like beating your head against a brick wall here. The last council or the last person I dealt with, I spent 2 years dealing with him, and then he left. And then we start all over again. Now this problem that we're having on our street is some of the people have put their houses up for sale on our street. And we have a pretty bad eyesore at the corner. And he's been there for a long time. There was another lady in the village in our area that worked on this for 2 years before I was approached. So I don't see the point in having a bylaw or having bylaws if we can't enforce them. And the property that this stuff is parked on, a lot of it, is the municipal property. When I phoned the RCMP about uninsured vehicles there, being parked there, they told me to come to the village. I come to the village and nothing's happening. And he's creating some blind spots there with everything he's got parked there. This is not a used car lot. It's not zoned for an auto body. It's fine to be a backyard mechanic, but if you're gonna have it all over on public property and in people's faces and it being a liability, and it is a liability, when somebody gets hurt on that corner, we, the taxpayers, are gonna be the co-defendants. Because those vehicles, he has 3 plates and he rotates them. And I have pictures. So something's got to be done, because otherwise we're gonna end up with a lawsuit that this municipality cannot afford. They can afford a bylaws officer a lot better than that. I'm sorry, but I've been talking to advocates, I've been talking to notaries, I've been talking to attorneys. And you know what? This is long enough, because get it done before something happens.
We appreciate your comments.
Thank
And
you.
further, we have discussed the bylaw enforcement aspect of it many times around the council table. Unfortunately, some communities, including ours in the past, use complaint-driven bylaw enforcement, where the neighbor is pitted against neighbor, where the neighbor has to fill out a complaint, and then you start a situation where things aren't resolved, but they escalate. We understand that as a council. We've got about 8 months under our belt. We have priorities that we have to deal with, and we have budget deliberations coming up in October. And all I can say is that we're going to look at it very seriously and try and come up with a solution. And you're absolutely correct. Why have bylaws if you can't enforce them? Period.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can we get a copy of her letter that she sent to you?
I have, and that's another thing. That's only one side of my street, and I have 14 signatures on it, and that's from 2.5 years ago. And I've got another 14 or 15 people that want their name on this, because that's the other side of the cul-de-sac.
Just to clear one thing up. You send a letter to Martin, or is this a previous
No,
letter?
this is the official, let's say complaints, I like to say concerns.
What was the date on the
Form.
letter?
February the 28th, 2017. I have a copy of it right here.
Right. So it wasn't a letter directed to Martin, it was a letter that.
It was one of our official complaint forms.
It's right here, and I've got all the notations for every time I came in here. I've got all the notations for every excuse that was given to me. I have got it all written down and documented.
Thank you.
Times, okay? So if you want a copy of this, you can have it, but that's not the problem.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for being part of the meeting and your comments. Anything further? Questions from the press?
Thank you, Mayor Tellerico. Through the chair, which committees were affected by the committee restructuring?
Economic Development,
Thank you.
Budget and Administrative Services, and Intergovernmental Relations.
Intergovernmental. Thank you. I have a second question. Through the chair again, Councillor Coomber mentioned an amendment to the harassment policy that she wanted to see put in. It's going to be, I gather, mass lodged at a later date. But what was the body that the suggested amendment came from?
CHC.
The Government of Canada Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety.
Sorry, Government of Canada,
Canadian Centre for
Canadian Centre for
Occupational Health and Safety.
Occupational Health and Safety, thank you. And finally, again through the chair, the damage to the fire hall roof, was this caused by just normal weather events?
Yes.
And so it's, I gather from the dates 2017, 2019, it's just been cumulative?
No, it's not due to the heavy rains or flooding or anything like that. It's entirely due to the age of the structure,
Oh, okay.
the age of the roof in particular.
Thank you very much.
further?
Nope.
Okay, motion to move into a closed meeting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Carried.